This mouse is like the worst.
I don't know how Bruce can see it.
Yeah, the camera should be on.
I'm trying slow. Oh. That's rude. Dude, Ruth, this could be just a special session with me and you.
Hi.
Oh, hi, honey. How are you?
Good, thank you.
No, I mean, dang, you and me can meet for lunch and have a cocktail and talk about Bon Jovi in between this, right?
I think I'm done with Bon Jovi. This whole COVID thing, it breaks you out of your existing habits.
Right.
And so I have broken my Bon Jovi habit.
Darn, I still like them. Okay, so we just have one. Well, let's see if anybody else logs in, Ruth. Okay?
Okay. All right.
Just because, I mean, I'm happy to just give you a private session if you want, but I don't know if it's worth your time rather than prospecting then. How do you feel about that?
I'm okay not. What I'm doing is I'm prepping for a listing presentation tomorrow. So I thought I better tune in. But if you don't want to do it, I'm okay too. You know, I don't want you to waste your time.
What I would do is if we don't get anybody else on here, Ruth, then what we could, and I can do is we could just go, I could just sit down and you and I could do a quick FaceTime and chat and, you know, do it that way too, rather than have this big class. Because if nobody's on,
How come nobody else is here though? That's what I don't understand.
I mean, usually the last time I taught, these were 6 feet away and we had like 6 people in here and then we had like 5 people on Zoom, which is fine.
Yeah, that's a decent amount of
But
people
she,
per meeting.
Ruth and I can get a lot more, if it's just her and me, then I don't need to do this. She and I can do a quick FaceTime and chat it up because.
Well, I got it all set up for you just in case more people show up.
Okay, Ruth, let's give it 5 minutes and see if anybody else comes in, and if not, I'll just give you a call on the phone.
Yeah, that's no problem. I'm at home doing some other things, so it's it's not a big it's not a big deal. Either way, I'm very flexible.
If I give you my cell phone, text me your direct number so I have it again.
Okay, I have you, Debra. I have you on. You're Debra, right? Yeah, I have you on my phone.
Oh, good. Text me your phone number real quick.
Okay.
Because that might just be easier than
Yeah.
if it's just one person.
Do you need anything else?
No, I'm just gonna wait to see if somebody else logs on or if anybody shows up, and if nobody does, then.
Push on the water.
That'd be great.
Yeah, I'll get you a cold water.
You're sweet. Thank you so much. Because this is technically Ignite. I think. Somebody would show.
So if this is Ignite, I've taken Ignite. A while ago.
So it's a new one, but I never follow as far as I'm concerned, everybody can read and it's amazingly good content in the manual. But what people are coming here, I feel, is to talk to a top producer and see a little bit about what they do and what they bring to the table. And so thanks, Liz. Yeah. And so that's kind of what I do when I teach the class. So
Yes.
because I think that's what they're trying to figure out. Anybody can read the book or the manual.
Yes. Yes.
I'm gonna close the door just so I know Jay's working out here. I don't want him to with my big loud voice. All by myself. So anyway, that's, and then usually the last time I was here, we had about 10 people, so.
Well, let me ask you this. When you go on a listing presentation, do you have them sign the paperwork before you go throughout the house? Some agents don't, some agents want to see the house. Some agents want the paperwork signed ahead of time because if they don't sign the paperwork, it's not worth it for them to see the house. I was here just to see, what your process is.
No, there's either, I have like either a listing consult or I have the listing appointment. And sometimes if in consult, let's say someone's a little nervous and they're inhibited, I keep it very simple. I'm always prepared. I always have my step so that if it goes further, because lots of times, I'd say about 90% of the time, if I just go to check out the property, they want it. And so I'm always prepared, because you always want to look prepared. But if it's a full listing presentation, some people, they want to see the house before, then they want to go prepare their comps and come back. I always prepare my comps based on numbers. It's just what I do. And the property, and I have the ability to adjust at one site.
Yeah.
And I'm very rarely wrong. Very rarely wrong when it's to numbers. Because before I even go there, I ask them a few questions like, have you upgraded the windows? Have you done the roof? Have you remodeled or upgraded the property since you purchased it? What have you personally done as the seller so that I can get the comparables ready? And then so based on what they're telling me, and I let them know this is based on what you told me, and these are the numbers, and these are the ones that I feel that are saying similar. And what I'm here to do today is to walk the property, verify, and because I've already looked at the 20 or 30 homes in the area within a half mile, or if there's enough comps, like let's say it's a condo or townhome, and there's goals in the last 0.25 miles, and there's 10 souls, that appraiser has everything they need. They're not going to go any further. So you've got to be able to adjust the upgrades, windows, etc. accordingly. So most of the time, to answer your question black and white, I consult with them by phone to hear what they have to say. Then I pull the comps, and then I have a quick comp sheet. So I don't know, you're on Flex or you on SRIR?
I'm here with the Conejo.
Okay. So I do quick comps, which basically I look at the properties and it gives you, like, you know how it gives you the average, the high, medium, the high, average, low, and then median. So I always have that available with me. And then I always do a quick CMA. So it's available to me as well. And then I have a little presentation folder that I do, and I'm ready to go. So if they want to chat, I got everything here to chat. And if they want to talk about the contract and listings, I always have a copy of it, because I think it's very powerful when somebody says to you, why do I need you? I mean, when you get a stack of disclosures, a listing agreement and disclosures that look like this, you need me because I need to be able to get you through this.
Do you ever look at, besides comps, do you ever look at RPR and then real lists to see what those value ranges are?
I check RPR, I check Realist, and well, Realist is really just the property information. I always, like, in all of this stuff that I would start with the Realist report, because I want this up when I talk to them by phone, because I want to verify that it's a 4-bedroom house, 2-bath, approximate square feet per assessor is 1,752. Year built, and this is what I start with. And I do that by phone, and then I ask them what upgrades and stuff that they've done to the property, and then I go to my comps. And then I'll check RPR too, just to see that I'm right, because maybe they're pulling up something that I'm not aware of.
Yeah. Have you ever had a vast discrepancy between, meaning your comps and Realist and RPR, and then what the sellers want? And what the sellers wants is like way high.
There's three types of sellers. The one that doesn't like the process and wants to price their house correctly, a little low using the internet strategy, and use the multiple offer process to get them the higher price. Then you have the other seller that says, I have a little time, I'm not really comfortable with that. This is what I really want for my house. I'd rather start here. I'm okay with the reduction, but this is how I feel more comfortable. So that's the second type of seller. And the third seller is out of there. They're just very unrealistic. But as long as you provide them the information that what numbers say, at least they can't say you didn't tell them. You could say, I'll list it. I'm motivated because the higher I sell, I make commission. So I'm motivated. But there's nothing here that says you're going to get it, other than right now the low inventory and if you're the perceived value of your property. So the first one, I always comp for appraised, like I always look at appraised, what I consider to be the appraised value, then fair market value, which is how real estate agents usually look at it, and then perceived value, which is how bad does somebody want the property. Those are the kind of, that's that high, medium, low that you're kind of looking at when you look at numbers. And yes, in this market, the numbers are all over the place because the last person who bought the house, who already lost 4 others, might have been willing to pay $20,000 more than the value. There's a lot of appraisals not coming in right now, but the interesting part is when that property closes, there's now a comp. So
when you said appraised value, perceived value, and then what was the other one?
Appraised, there's the appraised value, how the appraisers and banks see it. There's fair market value.
Oh yeah, got it. Fair
Fair
market value.
Looking at it, and then there's the perceived value. What is the buyer willing to spend in the market that we're in to get them set offer and close escrow?
Yeah.
That value is what's going like this.
Yeah. Okay. That makes sense. I took notes. That's really helpful. How do you feel when you sell outside your area? You know, like tomorrow, my listing presentation is for a home in Piru. And normally I would not go to Piru, but you know, it's my husband's coworker and it's a property that he wants to sell so he can move out of state. So I'm going there, but it's, you know, it's
appointment only, or you're gonna have to do it by.
What was that?
Are you doing it by appointment only, or are you gonna be able to put a lockbox on?
Well, here's another situation. It's tenant occupied right now. So I told him, you know, it's probably best for him to give the tenant, you know, 60 days notice, have it be vacant, and I put a lockbox on, you know. But I'm still meeting him tomorrow, so we can talk about everything and see the property.
With COVID, that's the better way. If he really wants to sell it now and the tenants are reasonable and they'll let you, then I would probably try to find a showing agent or somebody in the area just to help you with that. But if not, and he's willing to give notice and the tenants move out, you put a lockbox on it, you should be fine to do, you could do the research. You could within 45 minutes to an hour research Piru, things about the area, use your realist for information about the community, the neighborhood, Google restaurants, schools, do all that stuff and just be prepared. And I think if you're on list reports, they have information about properties that's technically public.
Yes, and I've talked to area agents too, so that was really helpful, and talked to them about pending listings, and they told me what the accepted offer price is, that type of thing. So that's really helpful to have agents be willing to share their information with me.
I just want to see. I don't think anybody else is on. I think it's still our private party here.
What was that?
And then I still think we're having a private party here, participants 3.
Oh, yes. I think it's just us.
Yeah, Nancy. Hi, Nancy. Nancy Trevino's here. Sorry, Nancy, we only have like you and Ruth on this. So if you want to undo your mic, we could just do some questions and answers because it's a really, really short party.
Oh, okay. Hello.
Sorry, Nancy. Sorry about that.
No, that's okay. I just wanted to, you know, sign in and see what it was about. It's my first time joining this course or this class.
There's a couple things we can do. I am prepared to talk a little bit about sellers and how I prepare myself. And Ruth and I were just chatting back and forth, which is still, I think, great information. And I could make it, you know, short and sweet. I mean, basically, you guys received the, there's a packet in here, and basically what I was gonna go over is basically the 5 essential things to get you guys prepared and through a listing consult, okay? And so basically the one in the workbook that was given out, it says process to listing. pre-listing questionnaire, schedule listing appointment, pre-listing package, creating a listing presentation, home walkthrough, and getting through that listing. And getting, that's what I was gonna stick to today, because I feel like everybody can read this big book and, you know, take highlights and clip notes and things like that. Also, I was only asked to teach this a day ago, and this is a brand new one. I usually do buyers, on Monday I do the buyers one. So basically, I was just gonna go over these 5 things, because I think that's the most important thing is, like Ruth was saying, you know, she's getting a listing from out of the area in Lake Prairie, and you know, do I do that? Well, the truth is, that's all I do is out of area. I don't specialize in one area. I specialize in everything from Conejo Valley through the 118, 101, all the way through Glendale, Burbank. I've sold as far as Santa Monica. Congratulations again, Ruth, on that wonderful listing you have in the Beverly Hills area. Santa Monica West Side, and basically, because I feel like I do that, I'm really good one to talk about doing the research of a property. My original career before real estate was a project manager, and as a project manager, we take a product, right? And then we build a marketing strategy around it. Right? So coming into real estate, it seemed really natural to me. So what I did is I look at the house, and then I think of the 5 things: price, upgrades, what else is sold recently, location. Number 1, where is it? What are the highlight points? How close is it to transportation? Is it away from transportation? Is it quiet? You know, all of these things. I also network with a lot of agents. So if there's a real estate agent that I work with in the past that's from that area, I'll give them a call because I've helped them out in my area. They're willing to help me out in theirs. And then Google is the best friend. Google map it. Look at the streets. Find out the restaurants. Nancy, are you familiar with how to get to Realist on the MLS?
Yes, I am.
Okay, go to Realist. The first thing Ruth and I were talking about, one of the first things I do is I go to Realist and I pull the information. And on Realist, it tells you about the community, tells you the demographics of the community, it tells you about the property, and I start there. And then I take a 5-10 minute call with the seller to get some information from them. Did they upgrade their house? How long have they lived there? What's their motivation? Okay. I also brought, this is why I love the in-person things, because I can pass things around to everybody. I'm a really in-person kind of gal, but I have like a little questionnaire that I did, because I do a lot of training. I have a questionnaire that I bring up. So when I talk to people by phone, I can fill it out, verifying their property. Is the property in a trust? Is it not in a trust? You know, I even ask them, you know, about their family, kids, dogs, just because I want to build a relationship with them. What's their motivation for selling? And then we get into a little bit about their house, like, what are the upgrades? Give me the list. I let them know that's going to be something that we're going to need even for the appraiser. So it's a good time to prepare themselves for getting a list together. Did they do the roof, the windows? How much did that cost? Round up. What he's going to ask for receipts. Make sense?
Yeah.
And so if you do that questionnaire, then I can Google map. I can Google map the house, and I could look at the front yard. And I could say, oh, I looked at on Google and I see this is your house. I'm looking at a brown house. Is it still brown? Because you said you painted, you know? And they're like, wow, that person's doing the research. And then I Google things to do in the zip code, the best restaurants, things like that, schools. And if you're really good at that, you can almost get that done in about 45 minutes to an hour. Because then I'm going to ask them when I go to the listing, you know, I'm going to say, here are the things that I know. Tell me more. Tell me what else are the reasons why you like the property. That's the same question you can ask them through the questionnaire. Your property looks amazing. It's a great location, but what are the things you loved about your property? And let them talk. And just take notes. So that's.
Deborah?
Yeah.
I'm gonna drop by the office later. If you can save a packet of your handouts for me, I'll pick that up.
What I could do, Ruth, is I can, see if I can copy them, but if I can't, I have them all in a PDF and I can send it to you,
Okay,
okay?
thank you.
You're welcome. So then, once I get that questionnaire, and once I talk to them by phone and I start developing that relationship, I let them know the importance of me stopping by and seeing the property. But I make it a practice to do the comparable homes in the area, because I'm trying to figure out the competition. I'm trying to figure out, are things selling high? Or most of the people, or most of the agents, like in the valley agents, they want quick and fast. And so they usually price low to get high. And you'll see a lot more green areas in the valley than out here. Out here, we have a lot of little pocket niches between Westlake and Thousand Oaks and Aurora and Newbury Park and Moore Park and Simi. You have homes in Simi that are, into the millions, and then you have homes that are as low as $520,000. And so when you have a 10-mile radius, we're going to have some highs and lows, right? So what I do is I try to see if I could, from numbers, figure out how are agents doing it, because you want to look at your competition. You want to look at how fast they're selling. If things are selling in 6 days and every arrow is green, people are pricing low to go high. If you're seeing a lot of ups and downs, then you might be able to play a little bit and say, hey, look, we have 3 comps that have sold in the area at 800,000, but I want to show you that the average price of the closings are 775. The reason why we're getting that is people are using an internet strategy to price their home so that the multiple offer works in the seller's favor. Does everybody understand? Do you understand what that means?
Yes.
Okay, Nancy?
Yes.
Okay, so basically, that's what I do. So I pull my numbers ahead of time because I really want to have tangible, like when I go to their house and I see whether their house is upgraded or whether it needs, to be painted or something. I want to be able to pull up 3 addresses to say, this is the house you guys are, these are the 3, or these are the 3. You're either comparing with the highs or you're comparing with the medians. And another thing is talk to appraisers. I think appraisers are really great people to talk to, because when I do my comps before a listing, I think more like an appraiser. Because in a market where a lot of things are selling high, there's a good chance that you're not going to get your appraisal. Okay, I had one property that was listed at $1,315,000 and sold at $1,500,000. We didn't get the appraisal, but we got an offer that I didn't have to worry about it. So that was great. So it's really important. So the way appraisers work is they can go out as far as 1.33 miles. But if you have 3 or 4 or 5 comps at a half a mile or less, and they're the same scape, 1-story or 2-story, they're pretty same and similar in size, or it's in the same tract, or it's same, approximate square feet plus or minus 200, approximate same lot, they're not going to go search for it unless you can explain to them at the appraisal that this one, could you go out, almost to a mile, because this is exactly the same. It's the same model match. And the only difference is that in this location, I can prove that it varies 20,000 for the location. So like, that's how strong I am when it comes to numbers and preparing. And I feel like I give them a better, accurate assessment of their home by doing the numbers beforehand than when they're trying to sell me on why their house is better than everybody else. I am way more equipped to take on that from an advisory standpoint, a real estate advisory standpoint, by doing my research for numbers before I go to listen. And by the way, not everybody does that. Most of the people go and look at the house first, and then they do the comps. But the problem is when you do that, in my opinion, when you go there and let them sell you first, you work harder on trying to figure out why their house is more, what their house really should be for this market, and then building the strategy around it. Make sense? Does that help?
Yes, that helps a lot. Thank you.
And so with you, Ruth, with you being going out of area, it will even help you more because it will make you sound like more like an expert because you're familiar with the homes that sold.
Okay, great. Thank you.
So I start with the questionnaire, the pre-listing. I have the realist already pulled up. I've already done some investigation using Realist or Google mapping the area and finding out like restaurants, locations, etc. Also, if you pull out a map, if you pull out a big map, like you go, let's say you say you go 3 miles out, and then you pull the map where it shows you where all the homes are located, and then you pull the homes. You'll be able to find out, like, let's say your house is A, it's in the middle, and it goes out in a circumference of 3 miles. You can actually almost see if there's an adjustment, like here in the Gora Hills, on Reyes Adobe, the homes below Thousand Oaks Boulevard are usually about 100 to 150 less than just up north of 1,000 Oaks Boulevard. You can actually see, you can say, I just want you to know as we go up every half mile to a mile, it almost goes up 100,000, 150,000. So when you start talking tangible, they understand that you know their area and it builds their confidence. And then when I also go, when I take the appointment and I make the appointment with them and I go, I have a lot of tangible, it's very hard for people to understand when they ask you what your value proposition is. I make sure to have everything in writing and leave it behind. So when someone says, what are you going to do for your commission? I have a list of 20 items that I'm going to do and that I'm committed to doing. And it's a little off now because of COVID, because of postcards and things like that. But I haven't changed it because COVID won't always be here. But I will talk about what I do different since COVID. Okay? So I leave them that. And then I also have a checklist so we can put an outline, times, when will we be ready? How long do you think it will take to prepare all of that? And it's all in writing. And then at the end of that consultation, when we talk about commission and I get their email addresses and I verify, we initial this. And I have documentation of the conversation. So that if I go back and someone says you didn't say that, I've documented that we had the conversation. Do you have any questions about that?
I didn't quite catch that whole commission and documentation.
Okay. So I have one thing called a pre-listing checklist. And so basically it verifies their address, names, emails, so that I know I have everything correct. And then it runs down my checklist for a listing. Preparing, they'll say, well, what's next? How do we move forward? Well, the first thing we're going to do is we're going to go over the listing agreement and the supporting documents. We're going to get that signed. And then we are going to verify that we have all the correct information so that I can get this preloaded on the MLS and ready to go so that we're all ready. We're going to do photographs. We're going to get the sign up. We're going to create all the marketing material. We're going to start preparing our Facebook advertising, go over the schedule for the open house, which we don't have open houses right now, but we're going to do what's called a virtual open house. And so I have all of this so that I can go over everything. It's in writing. They can see what it takes to do a listing and they know what my value proposition is. Okay, and then I have another sheet, which is seller overview and listing notes. Again, we're gonna go make sure we have all the correct address, emails. Is it a trust? Is it not a trust? And we're gonna verify because like this one here, this listing I have, it just shows a husband and wife, but it's in a trust. And I would have only got that from the prelim, and not everybody orders that. You can't, it takes like a week or two to get the full prelim. So we can look that up, or you can just have the information and verify it. And if they said, yes, it's in a trust, at least I know at that point, I need to make sure that prelim gets ordered and I need to get the full name of the trust for the listing agreement. And then these are all the documents that I bring. I bring the AD, the PBRS, the wildfire advisory, the listing agreement for coronavirus, the WCMD, the water conservation, and carbon monoxide disclosure. So I bring all these and they're all checked and we go over them while I'm there. I go quickly over them and I leave them with them. And the reason why I bring them, and I get a lot of people welcoming their house because I let them know I'm not gonna make you sign everything. I am gonna bring the docs because I think that everybody should have the opportunity to see the actual listing agreement, documentation, supporting docs, advisories, and disclosures, they should be able to look at it. They should be able to say that they've seen it, they've looked them over, and when they're going to sign the listing, especially with e-signatures, I have documentation that I left it with them. Now, if they didn't read them, that's not my problem. I left it with them, or we went over them and signed them. So I'm either prepared to take the listing right then and there, or I leave it with them, proving that I left them the documents, because then I have them initialed, and I bring this back, and I send them a copy. And then when they go to e-sign, if they say, well, I didn't read it, I can say, well, I left you them. We went over them. I sent you a PDF by email, and then you sign them. Because that's what covers your butt when if they say they didn't read the whole thing. They've had 3 opportunities to see the documentation. 1 through the listing presentation, 1 was sent as a free PDF, and then when through the e-sign software, they can view it again. So that's 3 times they should have read it. And by the way, whenever I email, I sign, or I send out through e-signature, I always say, please review the documents. And if you agree, please click to sign. And the reason I do that is I actually have one client that he signed it, and he basically said, it was when I was brand new, and he said, oh, well, I didn't read it, you just said to sign it. So now I always say, please review and sign. Make sense?
Yes.
So that's these disclosures right here. So I have my pre-listing questionnaire, and then I take my 2 questionnaires with me. One is a checklist. What are you going to do for your commission? What is your value proposition? Why do I need a real estate agent? This is the front list of the listing. And then these are all the disclosures, the discussion about price, commission, any concessions. Are we selling this? Are we only going to sell if we find a replacement property? Anything that, the listing might be in addition to. What are they excluding? Are they leaving their appliances? That's what this document is. Make sense? And I like these, especially because I teach these classes, especially if there was a classroom full of people that are newer. This is it's a good checks and balance, so they don't forget something I listed. Okay. And then I always show up with my contracts, because I think it's very powerful when they ask you. 1, I let them know, I just bring them down and I say, look, I'm bringing these because I feel everybody should have an opportunity to look these over. And I feel that by bringing them, 1 of 2 things are going to happen. You're either going to list today with me and we have the docs and we're prepared and you feel comfortable that I'm always willing to adapt to what's needed for your transaction, or I'm going to leave these, you can review them, and you'll feel a lot less stressed when we go to e-sign them, a day or 2 from now. So I always bring these and I always go over them. I do. I don't read them the entire. I go over the highlights. I present the contracts to them. I don't teach them contracts. Does that make sense?
Yes.
It's their job to read the docs. It's not our job to interpret it for them. It's our job to make sure we point out the most important things about the contract, where the commission is, their responsibility to their own listing. Understanding that disclosures don't necessarily mean that you accept everything, especially in the statewide buyers and sellers advisory. That's statewide, right? It's saying that you reviewed and received a copy. Okay, so it's easy to present it. It's their job to read it. I always bring the CMA. You do a CMA through the, when I do these classes, I try to bring, since they're tailored to newer agents, I try to make it as less cost as possible. Okay, like I don't want people going out and making custom stuff and all that. A lot of these tools are available through the MLS, Command. If you're with a team, they already have a listing presentation. But I always bring my listing presentation, which goes over the comparable homes with a map so they can see where the homes are to their home, high, mediums, and low. Summary pages that show pictures of the home, the details about the home so they know that I'm pulling the right comps. And then on the MLS, what's amazing is they actually have information about market analysis explanations, importance of pricing, right? Activity and timeline, and they have all of this. And so basically I can get this done this portion done through my MLS while I'm doing my comps and pulling everything. I just click the ones I want. I hit CMA and I can have this in 15 minutes. And I do have leather bound covers and things like that that are all custom to the Ross Realty Group, but I was very successful in my first 3 years with just a nice binded CMA. Just go to the store, plastic edge, clean, see-through, it's perfect. I mean, it's fine. Nobody's gonna, you know, it's clean, it looks nice, and it's well put together. And then at the end, I just put in the realist report here and some, you know, maybe if there's additional information about the area, you can put that in too. Okay, but I always have their comparables. We do have a marketing presentation for my team, but I think as a newer agent, you know, you just want to be able to talk about the internet, the value of the internet, that, you know, at this point there, it is like 90% probable that the buyer that they're going to see is going to see this online before an agent shows them. And so you definitely want to be able to explain the importance of the internet, how it works, how to price for the internet. Doesn't mean you're going to go with that strategy, but you do want them to understand that by using the internet, it is marketing to the masses. And by marketing to the masses, we're trying to generate at least 2, 3, or 4 offers. And anytime we're in a multiple situation, it puts it into the seller's advantage. But you will find those people that say, you know what, I'm just not comfortable with that. I feel like my house is better than everybody else. Would you still take a listing? Absolutely. As long as you know that I gave you the pricing, and if for some reason you don't get that price, then at least you're not upset with me for being forthright. Okay. And then the other thing I bring is I bring a folder. This is my presentation folder. We have a custom one, but I've used KWs for a very long time. And again, this is tailored at not spending a lot of money, but being prepared, because the most important thing to do at a listing is showing up prepared, bringing value. By doing that, as long as you're going to do all that research, just make sure you bring something that, you know, they're like, wow, that was really informative. So I bring my brochure, though I never talk about my brochure. I leave it for them. I let them know. I put a slip of my recommendations. I do have some awards and accolades, so I put that in, but I never talk about it because I don't necessarily want it to be about me. I want it to stay about them. But if it's important to them, it's in here. And I also have a little postcard that I love. It's just an easy read about full service versus limited service, because I think that when you're, you know, they need to understand the difference between a full-time real estate agent, maybe a part-time real estate agent, and what my value proposition is. I also, getting to know your vendors, there's a lot of free information that you can get from the title companies and the home protection companies. So I use this as a marker. This side is a marker to the transaction. Lawyers Title has amazing books. They have a seller's book, they have a buyer's book, and then they have a buyer and seller book. So if I know it's a listing and a buy, I use the buyer and seller book. And it's just great. It's just something to remind people. It talks about title, it talks about the transaction, it talks about escrow, but it's something that somebody could write on, make notes. And I find that it's very, very useful at these consultations. I also bring from Home Warranty, they have a beautiful brochure on how to sell a home. And it has an amazing checklist inside that you can go over with them. That it's not just your job just to take pictures and put on the internet. It's your job to consider a lot of different things. How the house will look, how the buyer will see it when they walk in. And it's not just about listing and getting an offer. It's about getting them through the home inspection. Make sure the light bulbs are fixed. Check your light switches. Make sure the faceplates are on. And we also talk about the value of the listing. Why? It's funny. I do it different ways. For a listing, if people are concerned about their net proceeds, for $75, I tell them to go ahead and get that pest inspection for $75, and we can use that as disclosures instead of the buyer going and getting it done. Okay? So this way, when you're negotiating in a multiple or you're negotiating with one offer, you know what's going to come up on that pest report. So you know how to negotiate. So many times people, they don't do the pest, and then they have to tent their house or they have woodwork and $38,000 or $40,000, and they said, oh, I might not have taken that price if I knew that. So sometimes it's good to be prepared and be the one to disclose this pest work. In a multiple, if you disclose it ahead of time, they may waive it, the buyer, if they really want the house. So I let them know that. I let them know why the seller is ordering a natural hazard disclosure, a third-party report, which helps the seller disclose the environmental areas around the house. It's not them, it's the company. And this is free from First American. And then I bring them their home protection plan. And I explain why this is a value to the seller. So I bring all of these as markers. And then what I'm doing by giving them all this information, I'm lowering their stress level because they know more about how this process goes, what could come up, making them feel more comfortable that I am the right one to get them through. Make sense? Make sense?
Yes, thank you.
No problem. Let's see, like I said, I love to do this in person because if you guys are here, and the last class I taught, there was like 6 people here and then some online. Just because I do bring a lot of materials, and for one of you, so I'm grateful that you logged on. And so my phone number, if you want to write it down, Nancy, is 805
Okay.
797 4502. If there's anything that's of interest, you're welcome to give me a quick call or say, you know, I'm really interested in that document, or I'd like to talk to you a little bit more about that. You're welcome to text or call. We can chat by phone. Okay.
Okay. And you said you could email the forms for today?
Yeah, I could email you a few of my forms that could help you. Like I said, I like these because, you know, when you're sitting there, it allows me to adapt to the person in front of me because, you know, 50% of it is you building a relationship while you're there. The other half is remembering what you're supposed to stay on track to do, right? So by having these things, it allows you a systematic process to get through. And again, the whole idea of this presentation is really, I mean, number one, to be prepared for whatever could come. They might say, you know what, I really like you. I didn't think I would. I had that piece said to me, I didn't think I'd like you guys, but I like you a lot. Let's do it. But I don't think I'll be ready in 3 weeks. Oh, no problem. We can do that. We have this form. It's called an SELM. It's excluded from the multiple listing service. So let's explain how that works. So by having all these documents available, whether you print them out or whether you have them on an iPad or whatever the case might be, just be prepared. So like I have in CAR, California Association of Realtor Forms, I have templates. So I can easily go to my CAR forms on my iPad and just pull up any of the contracts I want like that. I do know it's a waste of paper, but again, I think it's pretty impressive. You know, when you put all the minimum, and these are just the minimum contract, to put them in their hand and just hand it to them. Here, this is why you need it. And they put this in their hand, they're like, holy moly, I remember when the RPA was, you know, residential purchase agreement was 2 pages, 4 pages, 6 pages. You know, it's all about disclosures and advisories now. And my job, and people ask me all the time, they're like, your job is to get me the highest price. Well, you know, I want to get you the highest price. That's also how I get paid. But my job is really to transition your property without recourse. Right? That's a pretty powerful statement.
You said, yes, my job is to get you the highest price. And what was the last sentence?
I want to get you the highest price because that's also how I got paid. So that's the motivation, right, Ruth? That's my motivation. Yes. I want to get you the highest price. I make commission, so of course I want to get you the highest price. You know, based on what market will bear, keep you in the escrow, not fall out. But my number one job, my true job, is to transition your property without recourse.
Yeah.
If you don't end up getting, so when you move, you don't have to come back to this house and revisit it because you failed to disclose something, or you didn't do something right, or that's my job. My job is to make sure when you're presenting all of this, that the buyer knows what they're buying, they release their contingencies, You move on, they happily move in.
Yes.
And then, I bring the listing agreement, I bring the advisories and disclosures, so I can explain them. I bring any local addendums, out here. I don't use the SRAR addendum as much, and CSMAOR doesn't have a local addendum, and Keller Williams doesn't have an addendum, but I'm with Southland, and Southland has an addendum that does a very good job with Porter Ranch, Rocketine, and all that. So I bring that to every listing as well, because I think that's important. But what I also bring to the listing that I feel is very important is the seller property questionnaire and transfer disclosure statement. Because I really feel this is the most important doc to the sellers. I want to go over it and I want to make them understand disclose, disclose, disclose. I can protect you and I can sell any house with disclosure. But if you don't disclose, you will end yourself up in mediation. Disclose. If you had a leak, I fixed it. Approximately when? 2017. Phenomenal. Let them ask additional questions. Good people, sometimes good people, they go, oh, I had a leak and there was mold. Oh, you had a mold test done. No, but it looked like it. Well, if you didn't have a mold test, you didn't have mold, you had a leak and you fixed it. Right? Because good people they want to be safe, but if there was no mold, there was just fixed. So disclose what you know, don't disclose what you don't know. Make sense?
Yes.
So, but you want to fill this out. Noise disturbance is a hard one. If you're moving because your neighbors throws parties 6 days a week, disclose it. But if you're moving because you're relocating and it never bothered you, that might be something you want to disclose because somebody else, you want to disclose this as if you were the buyer and you would want to know. Make sense? Party, I think, would be a big one. But let's say it's a dog. I don't care about dog party. It doesn't bother me. So do I disclose it? I don't know. You know what I tell people? It's your moral compass. If you think you should or you question, you probably should. But if you don't think about it, don't create a problem. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I did recently or this year discourage someone from putting something on because they weren't 100% sure. The husband says, oh, I think our next door neighbor smokes pot because I could smell it. And the wife goes, well, I don't smell it. And I said, you know what? That's iffy, you know?
Yeah, it's iffy. I think it's one that this is where you have to be very careful. Are you moving because of it? Did it bother you? For me, if it was, let's say you got to think about it like this. So there's a young couple that's going to move into the house and they come there and they sit there at the inspection for 3 hours and the guy's smoking pot next door. It's very clear and you fall out of escrow. Now you got to disclose why you fall out of escrow. You may or may not know, but you don't want to fall out of escrow because it could be very bad for the property. Because nobody quite ever believes that you fell out with no fault to seller. You can say it, but they're going to still wonder why, right? So I always say that it's your moral compass. If you were a buyer, and if you disclose it, Ruth, if they disclose it and they say, I don't care about pot, I smoke it myself, great. And we have no problems. But if you don't disclose it, and I have this one, it's a very, very serious situation. It was in Woodland Hills. And my buyers found a new house that they love. They didn't like that these sober living homes were cut. There was like 8 of them in the block. And it was very, you can't really disclose it because of the Disability Act. And you can't, but like I said, it was very, very iffy. And in the end, they bought the house for 8. They sold it for just under $1.1 million. They found a much better house closer to Calabasas. And that was the reason why they were moving, okay? Very iffy because later on, the new buyer says, gosh, did they know that this sober living house went 6 doors down? Now, understand, the only thing that's kind of saving us here is that that sober living house was not open yet. Nobody lived there, it was being built. So there's no noise disturbance, there's nothing to report, there was no crime, there's nothing. It's not open. But if it was open, there might have been a problem, right? So they moved at a good time. they said, oh, were they aware that there was a sober living? They were aware, there's a few of them in the area. And she said, oh, I might have wanted to know that. I said, would it have changed their mind to buy the house? She said, no. I said, okay, well, they found a different house. It was very iffy. You've got to be careful with that. And that's what this is about. If you disclose, you're a lot safer. Because I was in that situation, Ruth, I think it's very easy for me to say, the best answer is if you were a buyer, would you want to know?
Okay.
And if the person doesn't want to buy it because of it, that probably was the wrong buyer anyway.
Yeah.
So find the buyer that doesn't care. And that's how everybody's safe. Does that make sense?
Yeah. I'm friends with the new buyers across this. I mean, basically the property in question. I am new buyers. I mean, I am friends with the new buyers. They never brought anything up. They never mentioned anything about the pot.
Sure, but you can imagine the rule of thumb is as long as you bid, you're safe, right? So I always say, use your moral compass. How would you feel? And they should be able to answer that question. You know, I think that's a very fair question. If you were the buyer, would you want to know? If the answer is yes, that's your moral compass. Disclose.
Okay.
And that'll be safe, because remember, I mean, you don't want to get caught in that battle of disclosure. If you disclose, you're safe. If they buy it, you're safe.
Yeah.
And that's, you know, that's really, you know, what I do. And when I go there, you know, a lot of people ask, a lot of people say to me, you know, Debra, this is great information. Some people say, do you go there always and force them to take the listing? Listen, I'm one of those rare agents that I'm prepared to take the listing, but I'm not afraid to walk away, because I want to work with people that want to work with us, and I want to be paid fairly for my job. And if let's say they don't want to pay me a fair commission, and some people or some, that's fine too. If I feel like it's a good house and it's easy and I can throw something up, I might make a conscious decision to do it. But I would say 94% of I get the commission I want all the time. And if I don't have it, and a lot of times I feel like if they're discounting and they're willing to give up all of this value proposition for 1%, then good luck to you. Yeah.
Okay.
So I'm prepared, I'm ready to go. I'm not afraid to walk away, because I feel everybody has the right to a decision. I do follow up. I'm very attentive, and I'm always there, but it does come at a price. So I would say that, you know, have I taken some? Yes. I took one that was a little less because it was in a great area that I was moving, and just by taking that, I got 2 buyers and I got another listing. So every once in a while you do it if you can make more money out of it, right?
Yeah.
Possibly, or do whatever. So we talked about pre-listing questionnaire. We talked about scheduling the listing appointment, being prepared, asking for it. Ask for the listing. Just say, you know, are you available Tuesday? What are your days off? What is your days off are a good one, because then you're already asking them for their availability, and they can't then change it. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Some people send a pre-listing package. I don't send a pre-listing package. I don't.
Okay.
Because if somebody else gets in there first, or if they don't like it or whatever, I want them to meet me. I feel like, you know, 75% of it is me. When I go in, me, my husband, my team, sitting there, laughing, connecting. We like dogs. We don't, you know, whatever the case is, I think get in front of them. And if you give them, my opinion is, if you give them too much in the beginning, there's a chance they might not like it, or somebody else's marketing material is better than yours. And somebody else's marketing material may be better than yours. But are you as a person better person? If you're that person, get in front of them. And then we talked about creating a listing, doing your research. Number one, do your research. There's nothing. The more prepared you are in the area, the more prepared you are for the property, the better it will go for you. And then when you're there, walk through the property. Walk through the property to look at the way, if they did a lot of upgrades, did they do the upgrades well? Look at it from, how will this possibly go during an inspection? Because I think it's very valuable when your job is to try to make them the most money they can, and then not have a hard request for repair. How do we get through that? We try to take care of things prior to the inspection. What does that entail? And then at the end, decide whether you're going to take the listing there or whether you're going to go home, write it up, and they can e-sign. I will tell you, I'm finding now that e-signature is more popular, that they just prefer to go home and e-sign. So I do have the ability that I can just have these uploaded and put the signatures on and get them e-signed, but most of the time I leave and within a couple hours I'll have a listing agreement reviewed and signed. So it's really just up to you and how persuasive you are. Everybody's a little different. Everybody's comfort level is a little different. You have to decide what works best for you.
This is what I've been doing. I do bring all the disclosures and everything, including the listing agreement and all the forms, and I explain it to them. I said you don't have to sign this now, other than the contract. And I said, and this could be a temporary contract. This is just an agreement for us to work together when your home is ready to go on the market, because I understand you have certain things you need to do. I can upload all of this and you can sign this whole thing electronically. And then they're okay with that. And they said, okay, let's do a temporary, I call it just a temporary agreement for us to work together. So it's only 5 pages, the listing contract and the SELM.
Except they haven't read it yet.
What was that?
You can do that, but did you let them read the contract?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. I explained the whole contract.
Yeah.
The listing agreement to them.
They read it. So just make sure that if you do the 5 pages, give them an opportunity to read the 5 pages.
Yes.
Because you don't want them to come back and say, well, I really didn't read it. And then you have a question, well, yeah, you really didn't. But the important thing is, and I think it's a great idea, by the way, Ruth. I mean, I love the fact, but you're saying you actually haven't signed a listing agreement? Or is it something you've drawn up personally?
Oh, it's the CAR form.
Oh, okay, yeah, so you're great. Yeah, absolutely great. But, of course you have to get the SELM at that same time. Too,
yep,
right?
and I always bring the SELM with me and we talk about it and we decide, which boxes to check on the SELM together, that type of thing.
No, I like that. That's a good idea. That's great. And like I said, it just depends, as long as you're prepared, but I do think, it's either send them the disclosures, like have it in an email. Like lots of times I can email myself, and while I'm sitting there, I just send the email right from there and say, okay, we signed the listing. All the rest of these disclosures or all the rest of the disclosures are in your inbox. And then what we can do is later tonight, we can just go over them one more time. I'm really a stickler about this just because I think it's good to be, but if it works for you, you're a talented agent, you've been doing it a long time, so whatever works best. But I do come prepared with them always, because you just never know. What if somebody says, yeah, let's do it.
Well, I do leave, when I have them sign the listing agreement, I leave all the forms there with them so they have it. And for the actual listing agreement, once they sign it, I take a PDF I have, you can scan it on a PDF thing on your phone. So I have the PDF of it already scanned, then I leave it there with them too. And so they have everything. So they can't go back and say, wait a second, what was that? So they have everything and I have everything. And then,
my only recommendation is
okay.
red ink signed RLA or listing agreement. If you get a listing agreement, an RLA listing agreement, you're supposed to take the original. So
okay.
I would scan it into my phone or whatever, and then email it to them right then, make sure it's in their inbox. But you're supposed to keep the wet ink.
Okay, all right. I've only I did not know that we're supposed to keep the original, and I only did that. I only gave the original to them one time, which was like the other week or whatnot. So I'll make sure I take the original and email them a copy.
Having the original, because then you don't want them to say you tampered with it. So by you having the original, and give them the PDF copy, you're documenting that you left them on the original copy.
Okay.
Make sense?
Yes.
I would keep the original. Anytime I do an admin or take an original, I always keep it. That's that 7 year. You could scan them in, you could put it in command or dot loop or whatever it is you're using, but always have the originals,
Okay,
okay?
sounds good.
It's always the best copy of the signature too, okay?
Okay, okay.
But other than that, I mean, like I said, there was a lot of people here. There'd be a lot more question and answers. I don't know if you have the Ignite book or if you just popped on, but you can always ask Emmy. I like these. I think, you know, when they come out with new materials, it's just fun to go back and look through it and jog your memory. But this new Ignite one is a really good one. So you can ask them for a copy and review it and highlight it. But overall, that's what I do. I try to keep my listing to about 30 to 40 minutes, and it goes to an hour and 15 minutes with questions, or if we're really getting along, sometimes we go longer. But overall, that's how I feel like that's how fast, accurate, and complete and thorough it should be. Make sense?
Okay. Yes,
I hope it
thank
helps.
you.
You know, like I said, it's a small class. I hope it was worth your time popping in.
Oh, it's totally worth
And
my
Ruth,
time. You've been really helpful.
A few of my checks and balance sheets too.
Yeah, that's really helpful. I've texted you my email address, so you have that.
Perfect, and I'll do that when I get back to my home office. And then, like I said, most of it, you know, because this is again tailored to newer agents that don't have, you know, a lot of working capital for money. I try to tailor it to be a little less expensive, so I utilize a lot of the free stuff from Lawyer's Title and the Home Protection Plan and things like that. And pretty much for a new agent, when I started, I just worked with a business card, one postcard, which is like a value proposition card because it's really easy to read and it's nuts and bolts. And then I have like my team brochure that's here. And what it's all designed to do is just leave my mission statement, my awards and accolades, and it allows me to focus more on the client, less on me. But if it's important to them, it's all there.
And if you don't mind, and maybe you would include the value proposition. I mean, I have a list of things that I do for them, but I wonder if it's enough or if it has changed. And you're go ahead.
You can send me. So what I find, Ruth, is that what I find is that you can't look at mine and do your value proposition. You have to do your value proposition. But
Got it.
I'll look at it and
Okay.
Like we can play questions and answer, and you're like, oh, or
Sure.
maybe say it like this. You're like, oh, I like
Okay.
that. You know what I mean?
Okay.
But I find out to develop a better Ruth if we're using what Ruth is saying versus what a lot of people, when I try to train people, my job is not to make you me. My job is to use my team to be a great you. If we can get you to be a great you, you're less nervous about going out and being that amazing. And like I said, mine was a great listing agent, being that great listing agent because you are actually, everything in front of you is you. Does that make sense? So like where a lot of people get really nervous is they're like, they go and pull up another listing or they try to be somebody else and they're nervous because they think that they have to remember it word for word. If you develop a value proposition based on you, it'll be second nature. And you will be so like, when I talk very powerful. It's because everything I'm saying is me. I know I can carry it out. Does that make sense? So if you want to do your value proposition, let somebody like me read it and I can say, well, about this, or do you do this? And you're like, oh, I do. Oh, I do. Oh, yes. Oh. And then you start to it comes together. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that makes sense. I feel really, I mean, this summer, I didn't take a listing here. I live in Dos Vientos, and I didn't take, I mean, not that I didn't take the listing, but we didn't come to an agreement on commission. And the lady just wanted to do 4%. And I've never done 4%. And she says, well, and I found out that another agent here in Dos Vientos, she kind of gets a lot of business. She cuts her commission all the time, and she does it for like 1.5%, which is why she gets a lot of listings. And it really bummed me out because now that, of course, it takes that agent much longer to close than I do. I generally here in Dos Vientos, I can sell a house in a week, 2 max, but usually it's in a week. And it took this agent like 3 months to sell it, and for a lot less. And it just closed today. I just saw it. So the house was listed at 1.2 and it sold for $1,150,000. And I knew I could have done a better job, and I probably should have. I still kick myself. I probably should have taken it at a lower commission because A, I would have gotten paid, and B, this is my neighborhood. So, I probably need to do.
You need to remember, like, if it's your neighborhood, the more signs that go up, the more listings you'll get. So if you take a less one, you either are going to get it, convince them to go up, or you could say exactly like you did, you know what? I don't ever want you to share that I cut it. And I just want you to tell everybody, when this house sells, what a great job I did. I don't want to be known as a discount broker, but here's the value for me taking this. 1, it's in my neighborhood. 2, hopefully I'll find some more deals. 3, hopefully you would refer all your friends and family. Or if they think about another house, maybe you're going to make on the other side. It's fair to say you never want to become a discount broker. Absolutely not. But would you take one if you knew that you could get 3 others? If the answer is yes, then it's still better to get something versus nothing. But I would ask the crew that they were able to get that.
What was that?
Ask them, do you have anything that says, because I know a lot of KW agents, they don't reduce. And some people just say, sometimes you can ask them to document that they're actually going to get. And ask them if they're going to cut back. Are they going to do the photographs? Are they going to do the Matterport? Are they going to do the floor plans? Are they going to be there for all the appointments? Or are they just throwing a lockbox up?
Yeah.
Are they going to watch over your personal property? Are they going to make sure, just start listing it out?
Okay, well, I had never reduced my commission before, so I wasn't, I was not ready to reduce it. It just seemed so foreign to me,
Sure. Or you could say, you know what? I can get you this price. I know I can. If I can't, then I'll reduce.
Okay. That sounds good.
If I can make you $30,000 more, why would you pay for that? If I can't get you what I tell you I'll get you, then I will write into the contract and I'll reduce.
Okay.
All right. This is what I want to do if I work my partner too, if you're comfortable. So it's just something else.
Yeah. Okay. Sounds good. I appreciate all your help. It was really, really helpful today.
I adore you. Call me anytime. If you ever have a question or you're preparing, or call me. I'm always here.
Thank you so much.
Take care.
Okay. Bye-bye.